Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. And today I have the amazing Marc Carey with us. Hi, Marc, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for inviting me along. Lovely to see you.
Oh, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. And thank you for your time today and coming on the show and sharing your experiences with us. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Name's Mark Carey. I'm based in East Kent, in the UK. I'm the CEO currently of Evolution Music. I'm also the acting CEO of Roulette Records, which is a small independent record label.
Yeah,
Yeah, my background has always been around music, but also lifelong environmentalist. I now get to combine the two passions between
fantastic.
music and environmentalism, which I can tell you about today.
Yeah, sustainability is a massive part of the industry at the moment, and we're trying to evolve and make it more sustainable and eco friendly. So I can't wait to hear more about some of the initiatives and the work that you're doing around that. So thank you. And how long have you actively been in the music and entertainment industry?
Well, giving away my age now, aren't I? I started in the mid '80s as a DJ.
Right.
So back when I was what would I have been then? 3 years old. So yeah, I was in my mid to late teens. I started out as a DJ, predominantly in the UK hip hop and electro scene,
Wow.
in London, and then went further afield, and then that evolved into the kind of rave scene as well. But as a lot of the DJs from that time will tell you, we earned plenty of money, but then we'd spend more money than we earned. So
Right. Thank you.
so we had to get a day job, and my day job took me into the world of facilities management and the built environment. So it was
Fantastic.
an interesting juxtaposition. I've always been involved in music. I've always been a DJ. I've had radio shows. I've been involved in entertainment, and then I've always, up until about 10 years ago, had to have a day job as well.
Right. Okay, I get that to supplement your income and make sure you can survive.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to
That's
feed
the
yourself
music
sometimes.
industry. Yeah, that's the music industry for you. And do you actually
Mm.
have a musical education, or is it just something you've passionately done?
I mean, musical education in the sense that I've always been around music, but
Yeah.
I'm not musically trained. I wasn't trained into this environment.
Oh,
I was fortunate. My brother and sister, about 10 years older than me, and my sister originally worked in the music industry.
right.
So from a very early age, I was exposed to a lot of music that maybe young people of a similar age weren't. So
Yeah.
that definitely influenced. So that's an education of sorts.
I would say so, yeah. So that's really interesting. So you've had quite a few different roles in the industry as well. And do you still do them all now? Are they kind of all ingrained in you and you just kind of do them all?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately now I'm able to do what I love, and that
Yeah.
was a bit of a turning point. I mean, the space I'm in at the moment is a studio, and upstairs there's music stuff going on, so you can hear it going on in the background. So I can't escape it even when we're doing an interview. Um, but yeah, so basically, yeah, it's always been my passion, music, and yeah, about 10 years ago, I'd been working in sustainability and environmentalism, in within local authorities, maybe local government work, and I just felt like I'd had enough of the greenwash. I feel I can say that because I was involved,
Yes.
and I felt like we weren't making the difference we should have been. So I just thought I'm going to go back to what I love for a while,
Yeah.
and what I love is music.
Good.
So that's what I did. I came back, and now, as I say, we kind of combined the two. I've gone back to environmentalism, but in the music industry. So setting up a small independent radio station, an independent record label,
Yeah.
working with artists and helping to manage them and move them on. That was where I came back in, and I was excited about that, and I still am.
Good. That's what I like to hear. So tell us more about your initiatives and some of the things you do around sustainability.
Yeah, certainly. As I say, I've always been carried on DJing. My radio show's been running for 20 years now.
Congrats.
Part of the fun thing about the radio show is we work with up and coming artists or established artists.
Fantastic.
So when we wanted to create the platform to support artists in the record label,
Yeah.
we identified a very simple ethos, which we've been involved with through the permaculture
Yeah.
movement, and that's Earth Care, People Care, Fair Shares.
Okay.
So we felt like we were able to do the equitable fair shares piece of that ethical perspective, and the people care, but
Yeah.
we was really struggling with the earth care piece.
Okay.
So we set up a small project within our team, called the Earth Care Project,
Yeah.
to identify sustainable options that we believed were meaningful and moved us in the right direction.
Yeah.
We struggled. We
Okay.
struggled. And so because of that, and because of our background in sustainability and R&D and innovation in the past,
Yes.
we kind of took the approach, Buckminster Fuller approach, well, if you can't find it, create it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we started. And we realized that plastics are the big offender
Right. Yes.
for us. Remember,
Yeah.
this is for us, not for the industry at this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, okay, well, this is a big offender for us. Physical media, CDs, dual cases. Obviously, touring and streaming were issues that we were concerned about as well.
Yeah.
But plastic was the big offender. Could we do something about the toxicity of the supply chain of plastics?
Interesting.
Turned out we could.
Yeah.
And so we investigated bioplastics and 5 years of R&D, and
Wow.
we created the world's first plant-based bioplastic
Fine.
vinyl, bio-vinyl LP.
Fantastic. What a breakthrough that is. And that saves the environment. And it also means that, do they biodegrade as well then? Does that mean they're kind of safe for the environment and they kind of break down into the environment itself?
Yes. So what we wanted to do was identify something that was compostable
Yeah.
as well, because recycling's great and it's a step in the right direction,
Yeah.
but we wanted something that'd be compostable as well. So we were looking for something that end of life could be compostable, but was robust enough to withstand the same pressures of pressing traditional PVC. That's where the R&D bit came in, really, is because we needed to make sure, in order for this to be taken up by the industry, we needed to make sure that if you were going to a pressing plant, all
Yeah.
they had to do was swap one compound for another.
Right.
And that's what we were working on for so long. There's been some happy accidents along the way, which I'm happy to tell you a bit more about in terms of what we found out once we started pressing. But
Okay.
that, in essence, is where we are right now with the launch of our first plant-based
Great.
vinyl record.
And have you rolled that out to other people as well? Or is it just something you've kept in-house for now?
Yeah. So originally, as you quite rightly say, we were looking for this for ourselves.
Yeah.
And a very good friend of ours, Rob Cass, who was at Abbey Road producer in-house for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to send him the details without telling him what we'd done.
Okay.
So I sent him this record, and it was, in those early days, it looked like a splatter vinyl. You know what I mean by that?
Okay.
It was green and black and white, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it played absolutely fine, but there was a little bit of surface noise. And the feedback from Rob was, well, he's actually critiquing the content, funny enough, as a producer.
Okay.
Like, well, it's a bit like new wave of classic rock. It's a bit dated. And I was like, I'm not worried about what you think of the music. What's it sound like, And he said,
Yeah.
well, a bit of surface noise, actually. But you expect that with splatters, and you expect that a little bit with picture discs and kind of vinyl.
Okay.
And that's when I said to him, well, if I told you there's no plastics in that and it's completely plant-based and it's biodegradable, what would you
Think.
say then?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it's one of the first times I've ever heard him speechless. And he said, look, the industry would want, not only want this, but they need this.
Yeah.
So that's when come back to your question. That's when we realized, it's not just us, actually.
Yeah.
And that's when the train started to run away from us, because it just exploded with the
Right.
interest.
Well, congratulations and well done.
2022. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And also, do you kind of look at CDs and other kind of cassettes and things like that too, or is it just focused on vinyl for now?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually, because we're now an Evolution Music, which is an offshoot of Roulette Records,
Okay.
is fundamentally an R&D company.
Right. Okay.
We realised that there's a need in the industry for a dedicated independent R&D
Yeah.
platform, and we're looking at everything. Nothing's out of scope for us right now.
And evolution, it's kind of evolving all the time and it's keeping up with the times, right? And also just it's what other people want in the industry, not just in the industry, but audiences too, right? They want something that's eco-friendly, that's sustainable, and that they actually care about the environment. And I think more and more people do care about the environment now. So they're more aware of what they're buying and what they purchase.
Yeah, for sure. And we've seen those consumer trends changing all the time. And that the pressure, interestingly, it's funny, the music industry often will steer itself towards the consumer needs.
Yeah.
But it's not very often steered by the artists. But this particular issue around climate crisis is being steered by artists as well.
I like
artists,
that.
producers, and consumers. And we've got a very strong global indie music scene and wonderful organizations. I must give a shout out to Music Declares Emergency,
Yes,
Earth
great.
Percent. There are great organizations doing incredible work, DJs for Climate Action.
Yeah.
And we work with all of those organizations to further the, as you say, the evolution of these products. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So what kind of challenges and barriers have you faced with doing that?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. It's
Can
been an
imagine.
interesting journey. As
Yeah,
a small independent business, um, dealing with the scope and scale of the opportunity
yeah,
has been challenging.
yeah, I can imagine.
Had it been just our need, then we could fulfill that and we could work with our own artists and that would be fine. But as a small team, seeing the global impact and, the first project we kind of proof of concept project we put into the marketplace, just to see what the interest would be like, was via a connection with Music Declares Emergency. So Lewis and Faye at MDE
Yeah.
had a stall at the independent record market up at the Coal Drop,
Yes.
and they wanted to do a little a tester run. So we worked with Ninja Tunes and Secretly Group,
Oh, fantastic.
put out a little EP which had I think we had on there Porridge Radio, Black Country New Road, Angel Olsen, and Bicep.
Wow,
And so there
impressive.
was only 20 of them pressed, and
Yeah,
they did it almost like a little raffle, to raise some funds for MDE
yeah.
and to
An
celebrate.
awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we did that, and the interest was huge. And off the back of that, Brian Eno's team at Earth Percent spotted what we were doing and said, "Look, we'd want to do a project with you." And so we're very fortunate. The first project that proof of concept we did with Brian and his team. Shout out to Kathy and Becky, Joel and Adam. They introduced us to Michael Stipe and BT Wolf. And
Right.
so they released our first Earth Percent, which was on like version 2 or 3 of our compound.
Yeah.
So still in R&D. And
Right.
then the world grabbed hold of it and it was everywhere. So
Right.
that's a challenge. It's a double-edged sword because it was
Yeah.
wonderful. But then I think about 12 months ago, I realized it was more like a runaway train.
Right.
We couldn't cope. We didn't have the resources.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't have the expertise. We were still in R&D. We didn't have the finances.
Okay.
And it was just running away from us. And it was getting more and more traction. So bigger artists, bigger labels, larger orders potentially.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, that was a challenge.
Okay.
The other thing that's been a challenge, I think, for us is to negotiate our way in the marketplace as an emerging independent business.
Okay, I can imagine. Yeah.
So uh, I think when we arrived at making vinyl and started talking about what we were doing,
Yeah.
the very next day almost, the competition, and I'm talking existing
Yes.
large scale competition,
Yeah.
had a similar product in the market.
Okay.
I would say the work that they're doing is in the right direction, but it's not what we do.
Okay.
That's why
Right.
I can explain that. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And thinking about it on a worldwide scale, like, did you ever think it was going to be that? Did you ever think it's going to be this big? Did you just think it's going to be a little sample thing? You're going to trial it and maybe roll it out between your own artists, but then you realize all these people want it on board.
Yeah, that was a big shock. And to coin my fellow director Adrian Clark, he said, "We've got a tiger by the tail."
Yes.
It really felt like that.
Yeah.
We've got interest from the west coast of America to the east coast
Well
of
done.
Australia
Yeah.
and
Well
everywhere
done.
in between.
Yeah.
So it's even a plant in Iceland that's being built. So we're going north as well now. So it's great. It's really exciting, and huge kudos to those people that supported us and followed us to date.
Yes.
And interestingly, we're sort of emerging again in 24,
Yeah.
or now on version 6 of the compound.
Wow.
We're very confident about moving that into the marketplace now. And a lot of people I'm reconnecting with are saying, "Oh, what happened? Last year there was loads going on for a couple of years, and then we didn't hear from you last year." And that's
Yeah.
because I put the brakes on that runaway train.
Right.
And we focused. So I'm going to circle back to what I was saying about the challenges, focused on protecting our intellectual property,
Yeah,
the
that's very
legalities behind it, the patents. It was
right.
a year of getting that right to
Right.
protect ourselves as a small indie going into a global
Gotcha.
market. marketplace.
And that must come with a lot of cost as well, right? The legal side of it and all that other stuff. So,
Yes, scary.
yeah, I can imagine. And you're on compound six. So tell us a bit more about how that's evolved, the compounds and the sound and the looks. How has that evolved over time?
Yeah, so interestingly, say the original was a dry mix that we put together on site in the UK. Then we were able to identify the components of the compound that we needed, and we could mix it elsewhere. So we worked with our supply chain partners to do that.
Yeah,
Sonically, it, there's no difference as a carrier. If you were to play our version in fact, some people say it's even better. If you were to play our version of Evo vinyl against traditional PVC vinyl, sonically the sound is no different. The
right.
difference was we've got this surface noise that appears on there.
Okay.
And that's depending on who you speak to, the audiophiles, that's a problem for.
Yeah.
A lot of people have said, well, it's not that bad. We know what caused it.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the organic fillers we use.
Okay.
So what's great is if you're working with synthetic fillers, you can dictate the size of those molecules.
Right.
You can
Interesting.
say, I want those to be, 5 microns maximum. But
Okay.
because we work with Mother Nature, she doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
She says, might be 5 microns, might be 10, might be 12, might be 30.
Right. Right.
And that was the difficulty without moving towards a more prescribed and synthetic route, because obviously we want to maintain the authenticity of the
Yeah.
product.
Cool.
So it was finding the right organic materials that had the right microscopic characteristics
Yeah.
that would be relevant to reduce that surface noise. And that's what we've been doing. That's each iteration has been about the sound. Now what we're working on is, and these are some of the things we found coincidentally, our product dissipates static, which is a massive bonus.
Yeah.
We didn't realize it would do that, but it does.
Right.
It's about 50% quicker for its cycle time on the machines
Right.
and it uses approximately 30% less energy on the machine.
Fantastic.
If
Well
you're running
done.
it through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we didn't know that. That was just a happy coincidence.
Right.
So
Good.
we're now working with the manufacturers, the pressing plants, to prove that fact.
Yeah.
More runs. There's still a bit of wastage. We've working on recycling that wastage so we can regrind it and reuse it. We've identified that can be done as well, which is
Yeah.
great. So that's what's been happening, and now we're working with academic partners and some organisations
Yeah.
to look at the life cycle analysis of the whole product
Well
to
done.
identify those gaps that we might have in this go-to-market version 1
Yeah.
and say, okay, what can we do better in the future? So it's an ongoing process.
And this might be a strange question, Mark, but is it cheaper to produce it that way, or is it a little bit more expensive?
So currently, it would be a more expensive compound,
Okay.
and that's just scales of economy.
Okay.
And the scaling up of it will be quite quick.
And did you find that affected the sales at all, or were people quite happy to pay the extra cost to keep it
Yeah,
environmentally?
I think people generally, the artists and the smaller labels are happy to carry that cost because ultimately it gets passed on to the consumer anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
So at a consumer level, it's a bit like saying, okay, you can have the latest album from Coldplay, and it's just your normal vinyl,
yeah,
and it's going to cost you £20.
yeah.
Or you can have this really cool splatter disc, and it's going to cost you 22 quid. Or
Okay,
you can have a picture disc, and it's 25 quid. Or you
excellent.
can have this really cool Evo vinyl, it's going to cost you £21.50. It's that kind of thing. It's in the range of all the other options.
Yeah, yeah. And can you
So
kind of
which is it?
personalize it as well? Can you personalize it to how you want it, or is there just set designs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've now started working on coloured versions as well. So we've got a
Right.
full range of coloured variants. That means that we can also start to play around. We can have fun with it now. We can start
Yeah,
to play around, see if we
that
can get some
sounds
splatter
cool.
effects and stuff. So yeah, and we've got a lot of interest. About I think probably over 600 inquiries that are sitting there waiting to come through the process to get in the marketplace. So it's exciting times. So I think for us, the most important thing is that it's been 5 or 6 years of hard graft.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think this kind of gives hope. A lot of artists, a lot of people that kind of wanting to make a difference. The challenges of not just the current climate crisis, but the challenges we face every day in the world. Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you all know that better than most, and so will some of your listeners.
Yeah.
It can seem a little bit hopeless,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
but actually, if you start to focus on the things you need, you might find in addressing those challenges and finding those solutions is something up that somebody else needs, and that's what we've done.
Yes. Fantastic. Yeah, I like that. So, what are your thoughts and feelings at the moment on where the music industry is as a whole in sustainability at the moment?
I think they're probably, I'd say the industry as a whole is behind where it should be.
Yeah.
However, there's a lot of action going on to move it back to to an even kill.
Yes.
What we do need is, again, it comes back to consumer pressure and artist pressure. We
Yeah.
need to see more of that, and also we need to have fun with this as well. You know, that's the other thing of having worked in academia and R&D for a number of years.
Yeah.
It's great, but you've also got to start to have fun with it. So
Yeah.
that's where creativity comes into its
Love
own.
that.
So getting it's okay to go out into the marketplace and say, "Oh, the climate crisis, isn't it bad?" and bonk everyone on the head with it.
Yeah.
Okay, we get that. What
Yeah.
can we do about it? What's the good news? What's the exciting stuff? How can we get
Exactly.
together? Let's
Yeah.
collaborate. Let's do great things. Let's make a noise about it. And that's what I think the music industry in particular and the creative arts can do particularly well,
Yes.
is to create that noise in a fun way without having to interrupt everybody's lives and just get them to think about things in a different way.
Yeah, not dictate to people either, isn't it? It's more of a choice thing. And the more we educate people on these issues, the more aware they become. And then just those little small things, they'll start to change. You know what I mean? So I think it's a really good
Totally.
thing. And do you get kind of support and funding for all the research and development that you've been doing, or does that come all out of your own pocket?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is what we call bootstrapping, where we've used our own funding.
Yeah.
Quite a substantial amount has come from friendly investment as well.
Yeah.
And we're just about to embark on a crowdfunding program as well to keep us in that independent space.
Oh, fingers
So
crossed.
yeah, it's very much about sort of friendly investment. It's why it takes so long.
Yeah, I can
It's,
imagine.
I say 5 years, but of course we did have COVID and lockdown during that period as well.
Okay.
And we've been, we've had to pull the money together to do the tasks. That's not,
Yes.
whereas the bigger organizations, if they want to do something, they just go, oh, there's the money, get on with it. We had to say, well, how do we find the money, then do it, right? That's a different matter.
Well, I'll leave a description with a link below. So and if anyone wants to donate, feel free to make a donation to that as well. And kind of what would you like to see improve in the next couple of years around sustainability and the things that you're doing?
Yeah, I think we need, well, two things actually.
Yeah.
I think we need to see more honesty.
Yes.
I'll come back to that point about greenwash. We've had consecutive governments, we've had corporate sectors continuing to say that they're addressing these issues, and they're not.
Right.
And that's fine. So let's just be honest, shall we?
Yeah.
We're in a predicament. There is a crisis. So let's stop bullshitting and let's get on with
Yeah.
finding proper solutions. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is stop ploughing money, and I'm talking like directly to government here.
Yeah.
Stop ploughing money into greenwash scenarios that you know are never going to go anywhere, and just line the pockets of your mates in the corporate sector and start filtering it down to the people that really need it, like the independent creative arts movement, or the creative R&D movement, or the innovation movement. Make that a reality. Those are two things we need to see in the future. Let's be honest about where we are and let's fix it, and
Yeah.
let's find some funding that can trickle down and actually get to the people that need it.
And make a difference at the same time.
100%. Yeah.
I love
Then
that.
we will make a difference, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we're all working towards in our own little ways, is changing the music industry for a more better, eco-friendly, sustainable, inclusive place to be. And I think we're getting there. Small steps are being made. We might make steps in the right direction, but just not fast enough. I totally agree with you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's another good point as well, is that often we seem to deal with these issues in silos,
Yes.
and then I think there needs to be more collaboration.
Yeah, and sharing that information across. Yeah, I think so too, because I think that's what we're trying to do in the EDI sector is, different cultures and different backgrounds have different challenges, and also bringing research to the table. But if we're not sharing that research, then other people can't learn from it, or they can't, do you know what I mean, be empowered by it or find out more. So I think education is the key, but collaboration is also the key too. So I totally agree with
Absolutely.
that. Yeah,
And I think, and then you start to share resources, as you say, you start to educate people in different ways, and a united front across all areas of, 21st century issues.
yeah,
We'll call them 21st century issues. They've been around a while, but
yeah,
we'll call them that for now. You know,
yeah,
showing people coming together for a common cause
yes,
is common sense.
yes.
So yeah, that's collaboration. Exactly. Collaboration is key.
Good as well, right, Mark? It's all for
Yeah,
good things
for
too. So,
sure. Yeah.
yeah. And if you enjoy it too and you've got a smile on your face, that makes it even better because I just love having a good time and enjoying what I do. So, yeah, I think you're amazing. And this whole project sounds fantastic. I can't
Thank
wait
you. I
to see some of
appreciate
these finals. I'll be looking out for them now, Mark.
it. Yeah, for sure. Well, just again, you can follow us on. We haven't got a huge following on socials because we haven't really, we haven't had much to tell necessarily. But you can find Evolution Music if you Google Evolution Music. You'll find us on all of the social platforms, and evolution-music.co.uk is the website for more info too. So,
Fantastic. Well, I'll
yeah,
leave that in the description as well, all the links
thank
to
you. I
find your
appreciate
work
it.
and your music and to donate. Do you also think that kind of age has an impact on the people that are kind of open to this eco-friendly and sustainable way? Or do you think it's quite spread out properly? Do you think everyone's quite accepting towards that?
I think that's a good question. I think generationally
Yes.
there is most so the digital generations, the millennials and
Yeah.
the Gen Z.
Yeah.
I think because they're used to sharing information and accessing information in a slightly different way,
Yes.
probably are more aware or more concerned about these.
Environment.
Maybe
Yeah.
that might be a sweeping assumption. Because obviously I work with people that I'm Gen X, I work with some boomers that are still around that are obviously concerned about this. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good question. If we were to do a straw poll, I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think Gen Z will be the ones that come out on top that are most concerned and willing to take action.
Yeah.
And you'd probably see a gradual, downward spiral to the boomers. And I get that because those are very, very different times.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. And with these kind of initiatives, do you get a lot of pushback, or do you find that most people are quite accepting and open for this in the industry itself?
Yeah, I think if we can't come back to you to actually, I've just thought of another barrier to the
Yeah.
market. So ironically, one of the barriers to the market, and this will answer your question,
Yeah.
is that people kind of make an assumption about being sustainable and environmentally friendly really is.
Yes.
And so it's great that we have concerns around CO2 levels, for example,
Yeah.
and it's and greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
But that is now the measure of sustainability.
Right.
And so sometimes those are barriers we come up against.
Yeah.
And this is why I think a lot of innovation and R&D gets stuck in
Yeah.
R&D in academia and never commercializes
Yeah.
because they can't achieve the scales that are
Right.
being put in front of them.
Right.
And I would refer to something like the built environment. So in the
Yeah.
built environment, they created a code for sustainable homes, and then nobody could really adhere to it. None of the developers really did as much. Some did,
Yeah.
and then another government come in and scrapped it because it wasn't working.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like if,
Frustration.
if you were being conspiratorial about it,
Yeah.
you might say these things are put there just to put you off track and give you unachievable goals.
Yes.
So I think to answer that question, the pushback often ironically comes from those people that share our ethos
Yes.
in a kind of like, well, this is how you're measuring your sustainability. This is how I measure sustainability, and the two things aren't matching yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then you need a broader understanding of what sustainability really
I think
means.
that makes sense as well because you can also there's lots of different ways of measuring sustainability, and why is it always the CO2 factor of it rather than okay, we use glass, we use plastics, the electricity that we use. There's lots of different things, even the food that we eat, like meat, right? They all have an impact on the environment. So I know when I was a part of the Key Change program, all of the food was vegan. all of the food, whether we wanted it or not. It was all vegan, and that was to protect the environment, but also to keep down the carbon emissions, because that also has an impact on that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think, I'm not dismissing the fact that we need to measure in some way. I'm not, absolutely,
yeah,
of course we do.
yeah,
But it's in the same way that there are arguments around, well, if you were to measure the carbon footprint of a Tesla
yeah,
versus a Hummer,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Hummer wins.
yeah.
But you and I know that Hummer's not more sustainable than a Tesla, right? Well,
That's that. Oh no, yeah. The
in
Hummers
the
are
same,
massive. They're like a big truck, aren't they? They're like a little
right.
army truck.
Yeah, but because of the way the materials are sourced, it's manufactured and shipped and typically to a specific reason, their carbon footprint is lower. So these are the kind of, now, I'm kind of heading into the world of urban myths here, but I'm just using that to say, in a facetious kind of way,
Um,
you know, one size does not fit all.
yeah,
So we need other ways to measure meaningful, sustainable steps towards a collaborative
yes.
solution for this current crisis.
Oh, that sounds good. So, what kind of steps would you want to see if there were
I,
some?
I think, I think, I think. Do you know what things? Interestingly, I mean, it's great that podcasts like this exist. Okay, so that's one thing. It's talking about this, sharing, educating,
Yeah,
talking amongst people and trying to get people to understand things. But then simple steps that
yeah,
you can take.
yeah.
I think I wouldn't class myself as a vegetarian, but I don't eat a lot of meat. You
Right.
know, um,
I step.
I,
Yeah,
I listen to my body, and as much as I can, I'm on a vegetarian diet. But
yeah,
sometimes I think there's not something not quite right about me. I need to just eat something, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, so that's my pattern. That's what I decide to do. I'm
Right.
also kind of trying to move away from dairy, for example.
Fair
So
enough.
I'm doing these little things for myself. But what I don't need to do is to compare myself to the next person, because we're all on different journeys.
That's
And I
true.
think that's the other thing that people forget to do.
Yeah,
Oh, also, I'm going to be a vegetarian now. Okay, so that means you're never going to have a bacon sandwich again in your life. Okay,
yeah,
that's not true. You're going to sneak one in at some point,
yeah,
unless you're really vehement about it. So, and I'm being kind of facetious, but that's the point. Don't beat yourself up about it. There's enough guilt trips in the world.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree.
Go down a path that you feel like you can make a
Constant.
difference for
Yeah,
yourself, that you're comfortable with.
yeah,
And do you know what? Those things will snowball. And before long, you are doing the things you want, and you are inspiring people to do things around you as well. So that would be the thing. If someone's listening to us today chatting and thinking, I want to know a little bit more about environmentalism, or what's this about plastic being so toxic? Because we always talk about plastic as end of life.
yeah.
Check out the supply chain.
Okay. Oh, we'll be
Look
doing
at the
that as well.
supply chain of PVC,
Yeah,
and in particular, the gentleman by the name of Kyle Devine, who's a professor at Oslo University, wrote a brilliant book called Decomposed,
yeah.
which really illustrates the sort of underbelly of
Wow.
these toxic supply chains that are in the music industry.
Right. And what they do to the
So
environment.
that's, and that's the sort of thing. If someone's listening today, have a read of that book, educate yourself a bit on some of a different perspective, a different viewpoint.
I love that. And we're running out of time. We've got 5 minutes left, Mark. So, is
God.
there any wins or major successes that you would like to share with the listeners, and anywhere that they can find you? I will leave all of that in the description below, but I know we've mentioned some of them already.
Sure, yeah. I mean, in terms of wins, I sort of pinch myself every day, because the people I work with, some of my creative heroes
Yes.
I get to meet and work with.
Oh, lovely.
And I sort of pinch myself every day, because they are. I mean, Brian Eno is one. I mean, I don't work with him directly, but I was at an event just recently, and I hadn't had a chance to sort of thank him for actually one to one, and I saw that he was on his own at this event. I went over and I said, Brian, I just want to say,
Thank you.
obviously we've done 2 or 3 projects with you, but
Yeah.
thank you, mate. Thank you so much for what you do.
That's,
So those are the big wins for me. You're kind of like, wow, I get to work with incredible people that are actually making a difference. I get to meet wonderful people like yourself, right? It's
and
incredible.
likewise.
So
We,
those are the big wins. And then there is a little bit of me that when we achieve something in terms of innovation
yeah.
that maybe people said you wouldn't be able to.
Right.
There's a little bit of me. There's a little bit of that ego left behind that goes, "How would you do it?"
I did it, and well done, and congratulations for that. Because some people would be put off, and they would say, "Oh, I just can't do it." But you persevered, you stuck to your guns, and you have made a massive difference. So well done, you. And I've
Thank
just
you.
been totally inspired by what you've shared with us today, and I just hope more people think about what we've discussed and make those positive steps to change and help the environment as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I must just say, obviously, I'm here representing Evolution Music today, but it's really a whole team. You know,
Yes,
everybody in this business has worked hard. Steve Charter, Adrian Clark, myself. We've now got Kevin DeCosta in there as well, Amy Brooks. The team are incredible. They've worked, you know, ridiculous hours, put so much effort and time into it, our own resources and our own finances as well. So there's evidence again that collaboration works.
yeah, kudos to all of you, and well done. Keep up the amazing work, and
Thank you.
what a fabulous team you are. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your story with us today. Really appreciate your time, and we'll speak again soon.
It's been a pleasure. Absolutely lovely to see you. Thanks a lot. Bye, Saskia.
Thank you.